Okay, hello everybody. I'm just here to explain the issues that I've had with my Breville machine. It is a Breville dual boiler machine that I bought as part of the Dynamic Duo pack. I think its model number is BES 920. I can look that up later. Anyway, so I want to just so everybody has a good picture and I don't leave anything out. I'm going to start from the beginning. So I bought the machine start of February. It is now mid-March, so I've had it for a month and a half. I bought it from the Breville Seconds shop. When I went to pick up the machine from those guys, they basically told me that the machine was perfect. They couldn't actually find why they'd been given the machine. Like, they didn't know what was wrong with it. There's no bumps, no scratches, and no notes accompanied with it that basically said that there was anything wrong with the machine. So they did their inspections, found there was nothing wrong with it, but I still got the really good price for it, so awesome. A bit of background on my experience. I am a complete noob except for the 2-day course I did with Wolf coffee roasters up here in Brisbane. So very basic stuff about doses, timing of your extraction, that kind of thing. So anyway, I take the machine home and basically right away couldn't figure out why my coffee was not extracting properly. So I followed the instructions that came with the machine, putting in the amount of coffee that they recommended, and I couldn't get it right. So using their coffee tamp and a razor dosing tool, which I'll show you later, I couldn't get it right. It ends up being around 20 or 18 grams of coffee that ends up in the basket if you follow their instructions. And doing that, the machine basically cannot achieve over 5.5 bars of pressure, and the coffee just runs straight through it. Well, I guess I need to adjust the grind size, right? So I went lower and lower and lower until it got to the very bottom that the Smart Grinder Pro, which is the grinder that comes in the pack, can achieve, and it still wasn't working. You can actually change the internal mechanism of the Smart Grinder Pro. The burr itself has a adjustable thing on it, which again I'll show you later. I went as small as that can go, and it wasn't working. So straight away I was like, this is weird. I can't get this right, what's going on? I rang Breville support. Guy I spoke to at Breville support, his name's Matt, super helpful, love those guys, but I still couldn't get it right and he was a bit confused. I am disappointed that basically everybody, apart from you guys on the internet, where they do like suggest that I use the double wall thing, but I just don't want to because basically everybody says to avoid them. So that's what I tried to do. So using the single wall double shot filter, putting in 18 to 20 grams wasn't working. Eventually, with my trial and error, I started updosing, and it was one of the things that was suggested on one of the forums I read was try to increase your dose size. So I did, and I saw that it was getting better and better the more I put in. Unfortunately, I have to put in around 25 grams of coffee into the basket that I have to achieve a good result, and you'll see later on in the video me doing that. The other thing is using 25 grams of coffee in that particular basket is really frustrating because it's basically impossible to get all the coffee in from the grinder. You end up with lots of overflow, it's falling all over the place, so lots of coffee wastage. My usual routine now is to grind halfway, pause it, do a tap to get it down, and then do the rest of it. It's still really hard. I end up with coffee everywhere. So I can get a pretty good shot doing that method with like around 25 grams. It's not ideal though. So I spoke to the guys from Breville and they suggested that I can take it to a shop for a repair, or they'd have a look at it. When I took the machine to, they're called, I think, Queensland coffee machines. When I handed it in, I actually asked, like, if you find that nothing is wrong with the machine, because I had an inkling that maybe it was just user error, I don't know what I'm doing. I said, can you show me how to use it properly? They were a bit dubious. I didn't speak to the tech at that point because they weren't there. But the lady that I was speaking to then basically said, the tech will be able to walk you through it, but won't be able to actually do a shot on your machine because it'll be packed up. So that's a bit frustrating. But anyway, exactly what I thought happened. I get the email from them being like, yep, we've looked at your machine, there's nothing wrong. Really frustrating thing happened when I picked it up, where I basically asked the repair guy, okay, so if you're telling me there's nothing wrong with it, can you tell me how much coffee to use, what extraction time and thing like that should I use? These to me, and I'm new, but these to me are pretty basic things that if you're a coffee professional, the stuff that you should know and you should care about, and that most machines should be able to achieve, especially if they want to call themselves a manual coffee machine. The repairman told me I'm being too fancy for that machine, and I want to believe that he is wrong, because the Breville machine, while it is a cheaper machine, if it was on special, I think the machine usually goes for around $1,300, $1,200 in that pack. I got it for a bit cheaper than that. So it's not an expensive machine, but it's not a cheap machine either. He basically just said I'm being too fancy for the machine. It's not something that I can be that accurate with, and that struck me as either incorrect or extremely disappointing with the machine. But he did basically say fill it up to just under the top of the basket and it should work. I also had a look at the grind size that they were using, and it's pretty close to what I got, and I'll show you the grind size that I've been using. I suppose what I'm asking is, why is that amount of coffee, which the repairman suggested and which I've found to work, is not what is suggested in the actual manual? And is it normal to use that much coffee in a machine like that? And is there something wrong with the machine? I'll show you a bit later on as well, where they've got guides on the tamp, and they've got that razor dosing tool, which is apparently what you're supposed to use to get a good coffee, and making the coffee with those tools that come with the machine does not work. It's simply the coffee just runs straight through it, and it's not a grind size thing. Like I've said, I've gone all the way from they suggest the 12 setting, and I've gone all the way down to 1, and then also changed the internal burr size as well. So let's have a look at how it actually functions. Okay, so I'm in the coffee machine now. I'm going to try to tamp in view just so you guys can see. Maybe I'm completely stuffing this up. Yeah, I know a lot of you are probably telling me that I should have spread the grinds out a bit before. Problem is, as soon as I get my finger in there, because I have a lot of coffee in there, I will lose a lot, and then the coffee machine won't work if it's less than what I need. But at the moment, that's what it looks like. See if I can get close, because I want you guys to see how far from the top. It's not going to focus though. Now I am actually kind of dubious whether this one will even work, because 24 is kind of on the low side for getting it to work for me. I'll show you the grinds in just a second, if I haven't already shown you in the editing. So we got our 9 bar, which is good. overshot it a little bit. I got around 50 at 25 seconds. So already, I mean, that's not ideal. Okay, so I wasn't happy with that shot before. So I have now pulled another shot. Sorry, haven't pulled a shot. I've ground some more coffee. This has around 26 grams in it now. So you can, that's kind of what we're looking at with 26 grams, and this is pretty standard for me for what I have to pull. Okay. So, my coffee. We now have basically a ristretto, unintentionally. What's interesting is I have pulled shots from 26 before, and it's not been like that. Pretty unpredictable machine. Okay, so a few little notes about the dosing size. According to the booklet, I remember reading or being told somewhere that 18 to 20 grams is normal for a double shot. And as you can tell from what I've shown you, that just never works. The 22 gram shot which I pulled didn't work. According to the booklet, if you match that and that, oops. So see the metal of the tamp with the edge of the filter basket. Apparently that's about right, but that is the, like, if you get that, that means you've got around 20 grams in, and that just never works. They also tell you to use this thing, which again achieves basically the same result. If I use this, it never works. The coffee runs out way too fast and ends up acidic. I was lucky enough, because I was curious about the basket. It's a pretty standard basket, but it is smaller than a lot of perhaps cafe style ones. I was lucky enough to get a second basket from a cafe in Brisbane City. This is a 22 gram, as you can see on the packet that he gave me. This basket is rated at 22 grams. Pretty standard double shot basket. You can see it's much deeper than the Breville basket. If I use this, I have to put in even more coffee than normal. So to get this basket to work, I basically have to get 27, 28 grams of coffee to get a good extraction from this basket. So I suppose that is all the notes on the actual tamping and dose amount. Alright, for those of you who don't know, this is the inside of the Smart Grinder Pro, and it's simply adjusted with this ring here. So it comes by default on number 5. I'm not even going to try to show you that because they're really hard to see, but there's little numbers here which you match up the red dot with. Like I said, when we were first having issues, I basically turned this to as fine as you can get, number 1, and we're still having issues. So it's back on 5 now, that's the default, and I'll show you the grind size. A lot of, when I speak to repair people and the Breville folk on the phone, they often I mean, not their fault, they have to ask me, but they do ask what beans am I using. So I'll tell you guys that here. I'm using, for this one, Elixir, pretty standard, great coffee in Brisbane. Previously, some of the shots that you'll see in this video were pulled with White Horse coffee. Let's get rid of that top first grind. Okay, that's what it looks like, if I can get it without shadows. I'm going to try to dry my fingers and do a pinch test. That's not going to focus, is it? I don't know. I will show you also just some still images to compare. So now that you've seen how the machine works, what do you think? Am I doing it wrong, or am I expecting something more than my machine can accomplish? Should I just put up with using around the 25 gram mark, or is there other options I have? Thanks for your help.